So the topic for class tonight is intention, no time to lose. And the meditation we just did is one that I adapted from two teachers. The first is Tara Brach, who's one of the foremost teachers in American Buddhism today. And the other is Stephen Levine. And he's also a meditation teacher and an author who writes principally on the subject of death and dying. We'll get to Stephen Levine in a minute, but I wanted to start with a quote from Tara Brach about intentionality, and that's largely what our meditation was about. She says, "It is helpful to start your meditation with a reflection on what matters to you. Some meditation students bring to mind an all-encompassing aspiration, while others focus on a particular intention for the sitting for the day. For instance, you might connect with your aspiration for loving fully, or decide to embrace whatever difficult emotions arise during your practice. You might aspire to the truth, to really see what is happening and what is real, or you might have the particular intention to recognize and let go of thoughts. When you begin by asking your heart what matters, you are already on the path of presence." When you begin by asking your heart what matters, you are already on the path of presence. So there, Tara Brach is talking about forming an intention in our meditation practice. And also, if we begin the day with meditation in the morning, she's also referring to setting an intention for today, beginning with our meditation and then extending into what is often called post-meditation or life. But Tara Brach, in her Dharma talks and also throughout her books, spends a great deal of time on the subject of examining our hitherto unexamined intentions in everyday life and in our various interactions. I mean, most of the time we don't even know that we're guided by certain buried intentions. So, for example, I might feel an impulse to lash out at somebody. I mean, that's obviously unskillful. It's not a good habit to get into. It leads to bad karma, bad consequences down the line. But nonetheless, it is a very strong impulse. But working with intention, I can invoke what Tara Brach calls the sacred pause. And I might have to remove myself from the situation in order to do this, but I can begin to inquire into what is my intention here. I feel like I've been provoked into anger. What is my intention here? What is my intention here? What is my intention here? Well, at the most base and gross level of intention, my intention is to slug somebody, right? But I can go deeper than that. What is my intention? What is my intention? And we ask this in the same way that a Zen student might ask a koan. You know, I think we all know the koan was the sound of one hand clapping. But there are other, more basic koans very directly related to a situation that a student might encounter. I knew a Zen student who was particularly, she was facing a certain situation in her life, and she had no idea what to do about it. It was extremely complicated. And she went to her Roshi. The Roshi is the teacher, and she, divulged the scenario. And the Roshi gave her a koan, and it was simply, what should I do? And she was supposed to just sit with that and ask herself, what should I do? What should I do? And likewise, we're sitting here with the intention, what is my intention here? What is my intention here? And we wait. We see the variety of answers come to the surface. And, when we get to the purest answer, it will come to the surface. A lot never supposed to just club a certain answer over the head and bring it back to our cave. We're just supposed to be very still and patient. In the Tao Te Ching, they say, do you have the great patience to wait until your mud settles and the answer arises of its own? So, I want to lash out at somebody, I want to slug somebody. What, is there a deeper intention here? What is my intention here? What is my intention here? And at a deeper level of intention, we might say, I want justice. I want justice. I saw something happen that I think is very wrong. I want justice. Okay, is there an even deeper level of intention there in this kind of Russian doll of intention? And we might find that actually behind this rage, there's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of grief when I see this thing that's stimulated by rage. Deep down, I feel a lot of sadness over it. Okay, well that's interesting. Can we embrace that sadness? Can we show compassion toward that sadness and begin to alleviate suffering from that level? And as we work at that level, the suffering dissipates. And then, if and when it's appropriate to address the situation that provoked us in the first place, we can come from a much more cool-headed, a much kinder, a much wiser, a much more compassionate level, which is far more effective than just injecting more aggression and more hostility into an already volatile situation. So that's one example. Another example might be, we find we're in a situation where we really want a certain person to like us. We want their approval. We want their acceptance. And we're like standing outside and looking at ourselves like, what am I, 12? Oh my God. And we don't have to judge ourselves for this. Even people whom we see as the most evolved and most enlightened beings do have very base impulses too. It's just they don't really hang out at that level of intention. But what happens when we do operate from that level of intention? We become greedy, we become fawning, we become graspy. In Buddhist terms, we solidify an egoic sense of self that's just going to lead to more and more suffering and more unskillful behavior. Think of Willie Loman, in Death of the Salesman. He tells his sons, be well liked, and you shall want for nothing else. And he never leaves that level of intentionality. And, what happens to him? He becomes all schmaltz. He becomes this obsequious character who's always leading with his glad hand and everything like that. And he alienates people with that very desperate behavior until he becomes this shell of a man and his life takes a very, very tragic course. But we don't have to hang out at that level of intention. We can go deeper than that. So what is my intention here? What is my intention here? Or maybe a better question is one that my teacher Martin asks his students to ask themselves, which is, what do I really want here? What do I really want here? Going very deep with that question. And there might be many things we want from this person, but there might be one thing is, I want a sense of belonging. I want a sense of friendship. I want a sense of connection. Okay, well, that's a deeper level of intention. What do I really want here? What is my intention here? What do I really want here? What is my intention here? And then we might think, have I really been giving myself that friendship? Have I really been attending to my own experience? Have I really been showing myself compassion? Come to think of it, no, I really haven't. And how about we work on that for a while and, giving ourselves that sense of belonging and that sense of compassion. And then, if we do work on that long enough and go deep enough with that through the three factors of concentration, meditation, and compassion, then when an opportunity for friendship or connection arises, I'm coming from a far less desperate place. I'm coming from a place of greater self-assurance, greater self-worth, And, if we hit it off, great. If we don't, I'm no worse off than before, and actually I'm better off than before, because I now have my own friendship. So those are two examples. Tara Brach enlarges on this discussion of intentionality by saying, like peeling back the layers of an onion, we may unfold layers of more immediate wants and fears before we arrive at the source, the light of pure intention. As we inhabit this purer intention, it becomes the compass of the heart that guides us home. As we inhabit this purer intention, it becomes the compass of the heart that guides us home. So again, through this process of meditation, compassion, and concentration, we can invoke the sacred cause and come to a purer intention. But here's the problem. How often do we do that? How often do we even realize that there's any intention behind the things we do? How often do we look at how and why we do the things we do? So often we're on automatic pilot, and it takes a real bombshell experience for us to take stock and to investigate our actions, our experience, and our intention. And that's where facing our own mortality comes in really handy. Stephen Levine, coming back to Stephen Levine, he and his wife Andrea actually have an organization where they work with the terminally ill. And they work very intensively with the terminally ill and really listen to them, really listen to their stories and their intentions and aspirations. And people will say, doesn't that get depressing? I mean, you're with all these people who are at death's door, are going to kick it at any minute. And they say more often than not, no. Because as they're, visiting with these people are suddenly staring death in the face, and they're stripped of their pretensions, and their intentions become a lot clearer, a lot more wholehearted, a lot sharper, and a lot more luminous. And it's funny because while I was preparing my notes for this talk, I was writing at that cafe I was telling you about, and there's this hipster barista guy who works there, and he seems to only play doo-wop and country and western. And he's a really, really sweet guy. We talk and kind of become friends, and he told me, this is my day job, but what I really want to do is get my death metal band off the ground. I was like, oh, I never knew that doo-wop was so inspiring to a death metal band, but apparently so. And so he was playing one of his country songs, and I'm making my notes, and all of a sudden I hear one of the country singers go, "Life gets mighty precious when there's less of it to lose." I was like, so Stephen Levine has a wonderful book called A Year to Live, where he actually asks us to live a year of our life as if it were our last year on earth. And he does it specifically so that we can see, what would my intentions be? What would my orientation toward life be? How would I treat people? It's an amazing book. I put it on the list. Read it. Do it. It's a very intense process. And, it's something that came to mind recently. I want to read you something. It's something that I actually posted on Facebook. It's something I wrote, and I wanted to share it with my friends. I had been in I've been in Prospect Park. I was doing walking meditation after I concluded my walking meditation session, I was walking back home, and I thought about this person whom I knew a long time ago. And anyway, this is what happened. Yesterday I Googled a therapist I started seeing when I was 19. I'd been walking in Prospect Park, where I composed an email to her in my head. Dear Dr. Kroll, guess what? I'm happy now. Now, this news might not look like something that could break the Richter scale, but I sensed it registered pretty high on Dr. Kroll's charts, especially considering how I was when she knew me. Back then, I was imbibing on heavyweight European philosophers, and once actually scrawled out the words, I wear no smile, therefore I am. Oh, could you get? I was officially an atheist, but believed in God off the record, and had pretty much concluded that God was on my parents' side, especially when it came to saddling me with so much Catholic guilt I walked around like a gay male Mary Magdalene, the post-Jesus years, which was no way to get laid. As if Dr. Kroll didn't have her work cut out for her enough with me, I was also setting out to be a legendary writer, so I could make up for what a fuck-up I'd been in all my years in school. I'd sit in her office and constantly name-drop all the authors I'd just started reading. At our very first session, I said, by the time Virginia Woolf was 14, she'd read the Iliad and the Odyssey in the original Greek. When I was 14, I was shaving my head and slamming to circle jerks. I thought if I was ever going to redeem myself, I'd have to top Shakespeare himself. I even tried making the uphill case that the only reason people thought Shakespeare was any good was because nobody could understand what the fuck anybody in his plays was saying. Of course, back then I loaded my own vocabulary with so many two-ton words nobody understood what I was saying either, least of all me. But Dr. Kroll was patient. She had just turned 40, just like I am now. She wanted to share with me what she'd learned with the benefit of relative age. She said, I used to think I had to be Sigmund Freud. I used to think I had to be one of the foremost authorities in psychotherapy. Now I think, if I can help just one person, I will have done my job in this life. Helping people? Who the hell said anything about helping people? That's what nuns and candy stripers and goody-goodies do. I wanted to be a big-time badass artist. She saw she had to try another angle on me. She could see I was beating myself up for not being Shakespeare, so in a later session she said, Kyle, when I was writing my dissertation, I kept thinking, I have to write the definitive study. I have to be a name in my field. Then I went to my advisor. Dr. Kroll pulled a slim manual off her shelf. He showed me a book no bigger than this. He said, this was my dissertation. It passed the committee and got me my doctorate. That line of persuasion didn't work either. I was into all these writers who seemed to go for the gold, even as they slouched in armchairs, smoking cigarettes with frowns on their faces. At the time, it seemed like she was preaching the doctrine of underachievement. But what the hell did I know? I was 19. Yesterday, I wanted to write to Dr. Kroll and say, I'm past all that now. I'm the same age today that you were when I first met you, and I feel the same way about my field now that you did about yours then. Oh, and look at that JPEG I attached. That's me. I'm wearing colors now. Yeah, that's right, colors. Oh, and you know how I used to drone on and on about not having a boyfriend? I'm married. I stood on Prospect Park West and Googled Dr. Karen Kroll so I could find her and tell her about this. Then I saw something posted about her from 2003 in the Chicago Tribune. It was an obituary. All it said was she died of cancer at age 51. I never got to tell her how right she was. But it did get me thinking about how any of us can go at any time. She was 40 then, I'm 40 now. If I were to discover that I had only 11 years to live, would I want to live it trying to make a name for myself? Absolutely not. I just want to love what's here with me right now, because it's going to be gone soon. And would I want to spend this time writing? Well, yes, but only because I love writing. And writing helps me to love what's here right now, because it's going to be gone soon. And I don't think Dr. Pearl went to her grave regretting never having become Freud. So, a week after I posted this, I got a phone call from my brother, Carrie, who had told me that my brother Kent was in the ICU. And a week after that, I got a text message from Carrie saying my brother Kent had passed away. Kent was 44 years old. 6 months prior to that, my father died. Less than a year before that, my mother died. And a year before that, a very close friend, a soulmate, in fact, died very suddenly. And I've got to hand it to death. It really does help bring things into focus. My God. And it's changed my writing too. These things have been pretty back-to-back, so I haven't been able to assess quite exactly how. But I can see that my orientation toward writing, toward meditation, toward living, has been more one of very much it's not that very acquisitive, like fame-seeking thing anymore, like it was when I was seeing Dr. Pearl. It's been more about honoring the moment, honoring my life with Julius, and just life in general, life beyond me, life. I guess that includes me, but it's much bigger than me. And in the writing portion of our class, I would like for us to explore, I'll give us some exercises to explore our own intentions with writing. We don't have to go to any deep, dark place, but just what's up for us right now with our intentions in writing. Before we do, though, I would like to close with some lines from a poem from Mary Oliver. You might know this poem. It's quite famous. It's called A Summer's Day. And the thing is, I believe in reincarnation, so I do think we have more than one shot, but this still does offer a very useful contemplation. So Mary Oliver says in this poem, I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? What is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? So let's just